KUSI News at 5.
Welcome to the KUSI News at 5. I'm Sandra Moss.
And I'm Alan Denton. Thanks for joining us. We have full team coverage of election night here at KUSI. Let's send it out to Sasha Fu at the registrar's office tonight to see how the voting has been going today. Sasha?
That's right. The epicenter of all this activity on this election day is, of course, the Registrar of Voters, where hundreds of thousands of ballots will be tallied tonight. We'll bring you a preview of that. But now let's check in with John Dupree.
Thank you, Sasha. I'm at the Democratic Party headquarters where tonight they will be watching carefully and they hope celebrating here at the Westin in the Gas Lamp downtown. Let's send it over to my colleague Steve Bosch at GOP headquarters at the Grand Hotel. Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. The Republicans here are expecting a very good showing tonight, both in Congressional District 52 and Council District 6. These are two very important races for San Diego. But first, in a couple of minutes, I'll be talking to Darrell Issa about the election and a couple of other things. But for now, let's go to Kristen Cusado at Golden Hall.
Thank you very much, Steve. We are live here at Golden Hall, where it's pretty quiet now, but it's about to get hopping here. We will talk about some of the races, some of the county races as well, and we will show you behind the scenes of right here what is Election Central. That is coming up. The KUSI News at 5 starts right now.
An election season that has brought allegations of sexual harassment, campaign office vandalism, and nasty political TV ads, all coming to an end tonight as San Diegans finally get to go to the polls.
KUSI's Sasha Fu is live at the Registrar of Voters office in Kearny Mesa, where all the action is happening. Sasha, how's it going out there?
That's right. That's right, Alan and Sandra. The sign behind me says it all. It makes it quite explicit. It says in big bold letters, vote here. Vote here and in about 1,200 other polling places around San Diego County, and all those ballots will be brought here over the course of the evening back here to Kearny Mesa to the registrar's office. And the man who is presiding over the vote counting process is none other than the county registrar, Michael Vu. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tell us a little bit about how the operations have gone so far today.
Thus far, it's been pretty consistent throughout the day. Voters have been going to their respective polling places to vote. Here at our office, we've had over 500 individuals who've cast a ballot already inside our office. We have a lot more individuals that are dropping off their mail ballots at our drop-off locations off to my left here, where over 2,500 individuals have done that. And I expect that and anticipate that that's what's happening at all of the polling places throughout the county.
Okay, so things have been going pretty smoothly. A lot of talk has been about the voter turnout, anticipated turnout, and some folks are saying that this could be a record low turnout for a general election. What are your thoughts on that?
It could be. You know, when we conducted the June 2014 primary election earlier this year, it was a 27% turnout. It was the lowest on record that we have seen since 1980. So in this election, when we looked at this upcoming election, what we saw was that in 2002, there was a 49% turnout. It could be lower than that 49% turnout for this upcoming election.
Okay, I heard you say a couple of days ago you thought it could be 49 to 51%, and a policy analyst said he disagreed. It could be 34 to 38%. That's a pretty big disparity, Michael.
There is. You know, we've been canvassing precincts throughout the county today, and what we're seeing is that, yeah, it's going to be lower probably than what I had earlier projected. I'm revising that number right now. It's 43 to 46% is what I'm anticipating what that number is. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're responsible for counting all of the ballots, and when we certify this election, which will occur 28 days after tonight, we'll definitely know what the turnout's going to be.
Okay, a little bit about the mood inside the building. I was inside the building and the offices about half an hour ago, and there was a definite buzz, a buzz of anticipation, to use a little theater analogy, almost like opening night on Broadway. What are some of the challenges in putting together such a complicated and sophisticated operation?
When we're talking about preparing for a countywide elections of this magnitude, we're talking about thousands of individuals that have to be brought on board. So out of the 1,432 voting precincts that we have out there, that equates to over 6,000 poll workers. And then our office has to hire 600 to 800 additional individuals to help us put all of it together across the entire county. And so it definitely is a certain energy for this one moment. You know, for all the time that it took to prepare for a 13-hour period, 13-hour period, we have one goal tonight, and that is to count all of those ballots coming back from the polling places.
All right. And of course, because we have about 3 more hours until the polls close, the big surge of enthusiasm and energy occurs at 8 o'clock when the polls officially close. Walk me through what happens to the rest of the evening.
So shortly after the polls close at 8 p.m., we were going to release all of the mail ballots that have been scanned into the tabulation system. Subsequent to that, at that same time, all of the 6,000 poll workers are trying to close down their voting precincts. They're trying to count how many ballots did they issue and how many did they count inside the ballot box. So once they've done that reconciliation, they're going to deliver all of those ballots and all of the election materials to one of 69 collection centers. At the collection centers, there are going to be individuals there that are going to be picking up those voted ballots and delivering them straight to our office, where there's going to be over 300 individuals ready to receive them and scan those ballots until all 1,432 voting precincts are accounted for.
Okay, so the ballots that were cast today, not through the mail-in process, how long will it take to count those ballots?
Well, it's a long ballot. There's 141 contests, 499 candidates, 24 measures across the entire county. So it's people have been voting not only just on the front side of the ballot, but on the back side. There are candidates and measures too. So I anticipate we're going to be finished up with counting all the 1,432 worth of polling place ballots by 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, my goodness, 2:30 to 3 o'clock. I do want to ask you a little bit about, based on some election returns in previous elections, after the first release of the absentee ballots, we heard that, some races were already decided. Could that be a possibility here?
That's definitely going to be, I think, the case in a lot of different races. But those really tight races, it may take some time. It may even take post-election activity before we actually get to know what the outcome is going to be.
Thank you very much for your comments and your insight on this very busy election night. That's it from Kearny Mesa. Now back to you in the studio.
I think it's going to be a long night. Sasha, thank you. Now let's talk about the national races. Early election results are starting to come in from the East Coast.
And the question remains, who will take control over the Senate? KUSI's Lauren Finney is here now to crunch the numbers for us from across the nation. Lauren?
Well, Alan and Sandra, this is a critical election cycle for Republicans who need 6 seats to take control of the Senate. And as polls are starting to close on the East Coast, as we mentioned, Republicans now only need 5 because they have picked up West Virginia, with Republican Shelley Capito being declared the winner there. And we're paying close attention to the 10 races hotly contested, one of which is Kentucky, where there is a Republican win as well. Incumbent Republican Senator Mitch McConnell is being declared the winner over Allison Grimes, the Secretary of State in Kentucky. Both CNN and the Associated Press are projecting McConnell the winner there. This marks a big win for Republicans, because if the GOP does gain control of the Senate, McConnell will then become majority leader in the Senate. And if the Republicans do get that majority, they will, of course, take over control of both chambers of Congress for the first time in 8 years. And this could give Republicans the opportunity to set their agenda and dare President Obama to either work with them or spend his final years in office issuing vetoes, all before the 2016 presidential elections. Now, again, a lot is at stake here, and here at KUSI, we'll be tracking the numbers as they come in all night. But for now, Alan and Sandra, we will send it back to you.
All right, Lauren. And, of course, Louisiana and Georgia are still widely expected to go to runoffs, right?
Exactly. Both states are close. And remember, if no candidate gets more than 50% of the vote, the top 2 candidates head to a runoff. In Louisiana, it's December 6th, but in Georgia, that runoff is January 6th. If the control of the U.S. Senate is still up for grabs come January, experts predict over $100 million in political spending by both parties. Alan and Sandra?
All right, Lauren Finney, thanks very much for that.
Well, both parties are waiting to hear the results from today's election.
And KUSI's John Dupree joins us now live from the Weston Gas Lamp downtown with more. John?
Thanks, Sandra and Alan. We're at the Weston Gas Lamp downtown in An enormous 15,000 square foot ballroom, which is virtually empty. You might even hear the echo of my voice. You look around and you see a big empty room. Try to imagine, if you will, this place full of people nervously anticipating the vote count, watching the tally, which will be projected on a big screen at the front of the room when everything is set up and good to go. Behind it all, orchestrating this event, is Francine Busby. She's the Democratic Party chairman in San Diego County. Francine, we're looking at races all around the county which have significant importance in the local communities, but we have to start with Congressional District 52. It's down to the wire. The Republicans, all the pundits keep telling us, have the advantage because they mail in votes early. Have the Democrats surged? Do you have any sense for whether they've surged and pushed their man Scott Peters by the end of the evening back into his Washington House seat?
Well, you know, we did expect the Republicans, as usual, to have a much higher return with absentee ballots. But I can tell you today I was in 4 different offices where they're making phone calls. They have deployed their armies of canvassers out there, and they are practically every phone call I heard was, I've already voted, I've already voted, I've already voted. So I do think we're getting our voters out, but I think it's going to be very close, and I'm not sure that either side can call it for tonight.
Still, and Scott Peters just walking into the room. In about 5:30, we'll have him live here on KUSI. But Francine, let's talk about local races. Of course, that District 6 race for the San Diego City Council seat. A brand new entrant into the race. How's she doing?
Carol Kim is an outstanding candidate, and she would make an excellent city council member. She has closed the gap. Back in the primary, her opponent did have quite a substantial lead. Yeah. But the last I saw, the Republicans had only returned about 500 more ballots than Democrats, and in a race like this, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. And again, we've just got armies of people pulling voters to the polls and calling them, and I'm very confident it will be close, but I'm confident that Carol has a good shot at this race, and that would keep the Democratic majority, a veto-proof majority on the city council.
We've got about 30 seconds. Can't imagine anybody working harder than Carol Kim has worked. She's knocked on more doors than anybody we know of. Okay, quickly, in Escondido, a significant race.
We do have a significant race. Olga Diaz is running for mayor. That would be a game changer out in Escondido, the first Latina to be elected. She's the deputy mayor right now. And Consuelo Martinez is running in one of the districts that was created for the first time for district races, and we're very confident that she's done a terrific job and she'll be great.
Francine Busby, thanks for being with us. All right, we'll talk more about Oceanside, about Chula Vista's mayor race, and the La Mesa race going on right now. All around the county, they're going to be watching critical races. We'll pitch it over back to our colleague Steve Bosch, or we'll go back to the studio now. We're going to come back at 5:30 with Scott Peters, and we'll hear what he has to say at the end of a viciously tiring campaign. Okay?
All right, look forward to that. Thank you, John. Now we're going to send it over to KUSI's Steve Bosch.
He is live at the GOP headquarters at the U.S. Grant Hotel. Steve?
Yes, Sandra, I'm here with Congressman Darrell Issa from the 49th Congressional District and, of course, chair of the House Oversight Committee. Thanks for joining us, Congressman.
Well, thanks for covering the important election tonight, not just here in San Diego, but nationally.
Let me get your opinion on this election, what it's about. Is it about the direction of the country, the direction of the Republican Party, perhaps both?
I think it's a referendum on the president. He's been trying to take us toward larger government. He's been anti-energy, and he's been stubbornly refusing to, if you will, work with the Congress. So I think the American people are asking for balance and accountability. I think that's why the Senate races are very much going Republican, in addition to looks like we'll pick up 8 to 10 seats tonight in the House.
So if the Republicans take the Senate, does that benefit your work on the Oversight Committee?
Immensely. I've been working with Senator Grassley, Senator Vitter, and a number of others who have been unable to get answers, and we've been able to help. But more importantly, there are over 180 bipartisan pieces of legislation that are stacked up in the Senate that now will have an opportunity to get a vote, and in all likelihood, almost all of them will head to the president's desk.
You know, a lot of Americans are concerned about holding government officials accountable, you know, given Fast and Furious, the IRS, Obamacare, et cetera. Where are we on that?
Well, it's interesting. Just this morning, we received 64,000 pages of documents, most of which should have been delivered 2.5 years ago. They weren't subject to executive privilege, and we're pouring them over them as we see them. But the spin, of course, from the administration is that they've always been transparent when, in fact, nothing's further from the truth. This isn't new to this administration, but it's just worse in this administration.
And one other thing here. If the Republicans take the Senate, I guess we're expecting a lot of action, executive privilege-wise, from the president. Executive actions. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think the president does so at his own peril. The Senate, working with the House in a bipartisan way, expects the president to work with them, and I think he's going to have to come to them not just for his appointments, but also for important issues. And let's remember, there are legislation like the XL pipeline that the president has held up on an executive basis that now he's going to be forced to deal with House and Senate wanting to make sure they're voted, but also foreign policy. The failure to deal with ISIL early on, the losses that are going on in that area of the world, his handling of Iranian nuclear ambitions, all of these issues, there'll be more balance when the House and Senate are able to ask the president, come to us and let's talk about it because we're a co-equal.
So is his legacy, let's say, in jeopardy?
Well, you know, President Clinton's legacy was made by losing the House and the Senate. And it could well be that if President Obama is willing to work for compromise with the House and Senate, that in fact his last 2 years could be the most productive.
We'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Congressman Darrell Issa from the 49th Congressional District. Let's go back to Golden Hall.
All right, thank you, Steve. KUSI's Kristen Casado is live at Golden Hall right now.
That's right, Kristen. We understand you're with Carl DeMaio.
We are live right now here at Golden Hall. Carl DeMaio is joining us. Carl, it has been a long time campaign here. How are you doing these last few hours on Election Day?
Well, we are excited. We are working very hard in the remaining hours to get our positive message out to San Diego voters. My record of reforming San Diego City Hall when it was on the brink of bankruptcy, balancing the budget without tax increases, reforming the pension system, and using those savings to restore the services that we had seen cut for so many years, like after-school programs, library hours. We need that same reform in Washington. I mean, the problems are the same year after year. These guys don't seem to be figuring out how to fix it. They just seem to be fighting with each other. And I think that that's what we are hearing time and time again from Republicans, Democrats, and everyone in between. They're disgusted. They're fed up with this political division and dysfunction. And I think our success in San Diego can be used as a model for how we reform Congress. Hold Congress to abide by the same laws as the rest of us, cut their perks and privileges, focus on a fresh approach to the national budget and our national debt limit, secure the border, take care of our veterans. We can do these things, and I think that that's going to be my focus when I'm back there. And I'm not going to be deterred by the mudslinging that you see in politics. I will continue to remain focused on the issues that matter to San Diegans. Speaking
of mudslinging, it has been, a campaign that everyone wants, probably over, including you. Yeah, absolutely brutal. Goodness, if you could do it all over again, what could you do different to try to avoid some of that, not respond? How would you do it?
Well, I tend not to respond at all. You know, if you get caught up with the lies, the smears, the personal attacks, that's exactly what your opponents want, because they don't have ideas on solving the problems. They don't have the record that we have. And so the only way for them to win an election is to divert attention to nasty slurs, nasty attacks. You saw how I operated at City Hall. I let that roll off my back, and I said, none of that matters. Let's talk pension reform. Hey, none of that matters. Let's fix our roads. None of that matters. Let's focus on creating middle-class jobs. And so I think we need elected officials who aren't going to take the bait, that they're not going to get drawn into the mudslinging, and instead they say, we're going to rise above. We are supposed to represent the issues that the people care about, and we need to be focusing on solutions and trying to build common ground from there. That's what I did at City Hall, and it worked really well. I think we can have that same level of success in Washington.
Just one really quick question, a quick lesson that you have learned in this campaign.
You know, I think the lesson is never underestimate your opponents to go places that you would never imagine they would dare go. And I think that San Diegans are going to reject that wholesale and resoundingly tonight because I think that they are as disgusted, absolutely disgusted by the mudslinging, the personal attacks. There's no place for that in politics. We need to focus on the issues. We need to focus on records. We need to focus on what we can do to solve these problems, and that will continue to be my focus, notwithstanding what our opponents do to us.
Thank you very much, Carl. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right.
A couple hours ahead for these folks, absolutely. Carl DeMaio here, Republican in Golden Hall, talking about the fact that he had no idea things would actually get this dirty, and they certainly have. But a lot of folks out there, a lot of voters have commented they cannot wait for those ads to be over early either. We are live here at Golden Hall. Kristen Casado, KUSI News.
Certainly one of the key races for us tonight. All right, Kristen, thank you. Well, we are just getting started with our team coverage of tonight's elections. We're going to check back with our team, plus a look at the forecast when we return.
And the polls are open until 8 this evening. It's not too late to cast your ballot. To find your polling place, we have that link on our website, or you can go to the Registrar of Voters at sdvote.com.